like 99% of the time all the characters are different. So the first one is like 2007. The second one is in like 79.
All right, we are live.
The third one is in, was that like the seven or no? When was the
No, it was
third?
like,
Was that the
what was the third one about?
Oh, the third one was modern, wasn't it? Like 2017, like they had cell phones almost.
Yeah.
Because
No,
the fourth,
that was the
well,
fifth season, fourth
the
season.
well, because the third one was Ewan McGregor and her, like with the coke.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that was like around the same time.
Yeah, there's a
Just
bunch of
remember,
famous people in it as well.
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm going to start watching then. Every time I run out of something that I'm just obsessed with, like Peaky Blinders, and then of course the Viking, all those shows, everything. When I run out of them, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to watch now?
Nate,
So-
are you sure you're live?
Yeah, it's live.
Well, I know it's live, but are we on the right account for sure?
Okay.
Yep, it's live. Okay, I got it. It just wasn't popping up for me when I was I was on our Twitch and
Oh,
it was not showing me we're live for me. So, okay. So, oh, good. Brennan's here. I was about to be like, your ass better be here for this.
I made it. Yep. I'm ready to hear this argument. You got to forgive me. I'm a little sick. We got like the flu going through the house. So, but
That sucks.
it must be going everywhere. All over the US.
I need to be wooed. I need to be convinced.
I can't wait.
Woo.
I don't need to convince you. I just need to give you reasonable doubt.
Exactly.
We got
That's
a lawyer
how
in the house. Yep.
That's how justice in America here.
Yep. I don't have to prove he isn't guilty. I just need to prove it's reasonable.
Okay, Nate, do you have the listing or the realtor.com or whatever?
Yeah.
I just want to
Let's
show the
see.
house when I start my story and then you can.
Let's share that. So this is the listing I found.
Okay, cool.
And here's a nice little aerial view. They
We'll
have
just
nice little
just
acreage.
flip through it a little bit. I'm gonna start the episode. Okay, where's Josh? There we go.
Well, that's all I have to share on the thing. So
Well, I meant share it while I'm reading the fucking paragraph and then you can stop sharing it. Like, I don't know how much more clear I could have been. You guys, I swear we had this all worked out prior to starting this. Okay. So Moselle is back on the market. The 48-acre South Carolina property where Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were killed is now listed for $2.2 million. That's down from $2.75 million 5 months earlier. It was bought at auction in February of 2024 for $1 million by North Carolina businessman Alex Blair, who renovated and then relisted it with a big price cut. That sets up the weird tension for a True Crime Tuesday episode. A place can be both a murder scene and a country lifestyle listing. On June 7th, 2021, Maggie Murdaugh and her son Paul were shot near the dog kennels at Moselle. The state's medical testimony laid out the ugly basics. Maggie was hit multiple times with a .300 blackout rifle, and Paul was killed with a shotgun with 2 shots described in court through diagrams and wound paths. 2 guns, 2 ammo types, 2 victims, and 1 tight window of time. If you've watched the documentaries, the vibe is guilty as hell. If you watched only the trial, you still might land there, but for more specific reasons. The prosecution's spine was not a magic smoking gun moment. It was a stack. Timeline, lies, phone data, firearms evidence that pointed back to the Murdaugh world, even when the actual murder weapons were never found. Now to the part you asked for, ballistics and reasonable doubt with the holes spelled out. The rifle side of the case came down to 300 blackout cartridge casings found around Maggie. A state firearms tool mark examiner testified that those casings had matching extractor and ejector marks, meaning they were cycled through the same rifle. He also testified that similar 300 blackout casings were found elsewhere on the Moselle property, including areas tied to the family's gun use, and that those match the same pattern of tool marks. So in plain English, the state's story was that the rifle that cycled the murder scene casings looks like it lived in the Murdaugh orbit and the Murdaugh's own 300 blackout rifles. Here's the reasonable doubt pressure point that people gloss over when they just want a neat ending. Even in the state-friendly version, this does not automatically identify a specific rifle by serial number because the suspected murder rifle was never recovered. The testimony is essentially these casings appear to have been cycled through the same unknown rifle, and we found other casings on the property with the same mechanism marks. That is strong context. It is not the same thing as producing the rifle in court and saying this gun did it. Then you add the second layer of doubt that's always lurking in tool mark evidence. It's opinion-based pattern comparison, not DNA. The state's expert is looking at microscopic marks and saying they match. Defense teams in many cases attack that as subjective and vulnerable to confirmation bias, especially when the narrative pressure is enormous. Even if you personally believe the matching is correct, the defense only needs the jurors to believe that there's a real chance it could be wrong, overstated, or less conclusive than it sounds when the witness is confident on the stand. The shotgun side is even more blunt. Everyone agrees Paul was killed with a shotgun, but again, no murder weapon recovered. So the state's left arguing access and opportunity. The defense gets to keep repeating the same simple line that jurors actually remember: no gun, no direct tie. Now stack that onto other reasonable doubt lanes that the defense hammered. One lane is physical evidence, or what the state did not have: no murder weapons, no surveillance video of the shooting, and critically, the defense emphasized the lack of visible blood on Alex when law enforcement arrived, despite the brutality and proximity of the attacks, especially Paul's. Appeals coverage has continued to spotlight that theme because it's emotionally powerful to a jury. If you did this up close, where's the mess on you? The prosecution answer was essentially time, clothing changes, cleanup, and the mess at the scene does not automatically guarantee obvious blood on the killer later. But not automatically is not the same as we can show you how. Another lane is the investigation itself. An AP trial takeaway piece reported the defense argument that investigators missed or failed to properly execute certain steps, and that the scene got contaminated with a lot of people moving through it before it was locked down. In cases built on inference, sloppiness matters more because every gap becomes a place for the defense to park an alternative explanation. Then there's the timeline, which is where this case becomes a first fight over minutes. The prosecution's big hammer was that the kennel video from Paul's phone placing Alex at the kennel shortly before the murders, directly contradicting Alex's earlier statements that he wasn't down there. That lie is devastating because it makes jurors feel manipulated. It also locks Alex into a narrower window that the state says he used to kill them, then pivot to normal life behavior like calls and driving. The defense position is basically the state needs you to accept a very tight sequence where the killer executes two people with two different weapons, avoids leaving obvious physical traces on himself, deals with weapons that vanish, and then starts acting like a person heading off to an alibi visit. The narrower the window, the more jurors have to lean on belief instead of clean proof. Another lane is alternative suspects. The defense floated the idea that the Murdaugh family had enemies, including anger tied to Paul's voting case, and in closing, they even suggested a drug gang related angle. You do not have to love that theory to see why it's useful. It gives jurors a mental exit ramp. You only need one juror to think, I can't rule out someone else. Here's the hard, annoying truth that makes people mad. This case can feel obvious and still contain real reasonable doubt arguments if you force yourself to stay inside the evidence rules. The state built a story where the guns and ammo point inward toward the family. The timeline points inward and Alex's lies point inward. The defense kept pointing at what was missing: actual weapons, direct forensic transfer evidence, and a clean, uncontested investigative record. Both things can be true at the same time. Reasonable doubt is not, do I dislike him? It's, can I rule out other explanations based on what the state proved? And the defense had plenty of material to argue the state asked jurors to fill gaps with inference, especially where the firearms evidence strongly suggests a Murdaugh connected 300 blackout rifle, but cannot be anchored to a recovered murder weapon. And this is why I was saying I would change my name if I were on trial for this, because Murdaugh and murder. Bring it back to Moselle. That's where our episode hook lies. A property listing can be staged, a driveway can be regated, kennels can be torn down. And by the way, the guy, I think his name was Alex Blair, when he bought the property, he claims he had irrefutable evidence that about the kennels that would say that Alex Murdaugh was not guilty. But those kennels were torn down. And honestly, the actual weapons and a cleanup physical tie never showed up. So here's what I want to do. I want to hear from like Holly and Brennan, who are like team guilty. And then I want Nate and Brian to give their take.
You go first, Holly.
You're muted.
Muted.
Okay. I just watched the documentaries, right? I think one and then a show about it. So, it's obvious that they tried to sway us in those contexts by showing all the different ways that he did the murder and all of his motivation for it and the money theft. It was like everything came to this pinnacle point and he just kind of like lost his mind. So I think so far, I think everything points to him being guilty.
Okay. One, I'm sorry. He lied about his being at the kennels. Completely lied to everybody. He was there like super, super short period between the killings and when he would have had to left. He changed his clothes for sure because I can't remember who it was that said that, but she saw him changed after that. She didn't see him back in those clothes that he was in before the murders happened. So those clothes are gone. All of the ballistics are from their family weapons. He would have known how to get rid of those weapons. He had immense pressure from the legal troubles he was having, from stealing the money from his company. I believe his dad had just passed away right before that, and he was trying to deflect because this dude was a narcissist. He was trying to get public opinion back to feel sorry for him, not his family, to feel sorry for him, because I don't think he cared at all. Another thing is the Murdaughs did not divorce. I don't think like their family didn't allow divorce, like truly. Maggie was about to leave him for this. She had been staying at their beach house and he wasn't about to let that happen. Paul had caused all kinds of troubles for him. And this, I think, he saw as the easiest way out and to try and get some sympathy back for him. Not to mention, he had just tried to get himself killed to get his insurance policy paid out to Buster. And when we look at, he said he was missing his family really bad. His dad had just died. He called Maggie and Paul to the house. He didn't call Buster. Why wouldn't he have called Buster? Because he was trying, he liked Buster. He was trying to save Buster, tried to get his friend to shoot him in the head so Buster could get his life insurance policy.
Why didn't he hire a hitman to kill his family then? Why would he hire one to kill himself?
It wasn't even a hitman. It was his friend. He tried to get his friend to kill him.
It's a hitman. Like, I mean, whoever he's hiring, like, put a hit on him. Like, that makes you a hitman.
Maybe
I don't think it was like a hitman style type thing. It was like a, hey, I'm desperate. I just want you to shoot me in the head. Like, he wouldn't go out and hire someone who would then be traced back to him. He was trying to get a friend to do it for him. I had another
family rate.
Yeah.
What is it?
He wanted the friends and family hitman.
Yeah,
rate.
yeah. I had another point, but I forgot. It'll probably come back to me.
Okay, I wrote notes real quick. Brennan's take is he lied about being there. He changed his clothes. There was legal pressure as motive. Ballistics. Maggie was leaving him and Paul caused all kinds of troubles for him. Having them dead would create sympathy, and hiring somebody to kill himself shows like what kind of trouble he was in.
Okay, and I have three things to add. Don't forget what you're going to say. So also, I think, the chaos that Paul caused, Brendan mentioned it, but I think that was a lot of it. He really had this growing disdain for his son. And so, because he killed everyone and everyone's coming after them. And it was interesting that he put that out as almost the reason, like right away. Like when the cops came, he was like, I don't know, must have had to do with the boat. Like, it was crazy. And then all the things with the housekeeper, how like she fell and hit her head, and then like they kept it, the mom kept it from the kids, and then they screwed those kids out of money. Like he took all of that. So I just wanted to add those things that they kind of fueled my fire towards guilty.
True. Yeah, there was past like malpractice with like I can't remember exactly what it was, but wasn't there speculation about how she died too?
Yeah, because the brick on the stairs was loose, and people think that that was his first attempt at maybe killing Maggie, was the stairs, but it turned out that the housekeeper was the one that went up the stairs.
Yeah. So he's not a good character. And then the other thing that it was is the tracking of his cell phone, of Maggie's cell phones, and they had the SUV movement, and they were like they placed it exactly. It was like perfectly how he would have killed them and then moved and then tried to like get rid of stuff and then come back. But that's
I'm
what it
writing
was.
all this down because Brian has talked about all of those things. From what I find very interesting about what we're about to go in on is Nate's going to talk a little bit, but also Brian didn't watch the documentary. He only watched the trial. And then he also is like, I don't want to say ballistics expert, but I found his take very interesting on the ballistics side of it. Nate, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to show what Brendan was talking about as far as, they have like the timestamps of the digital footprint, and then going back to like the vehicle and like when it was parked and when it started and whatnot. So I wanted to share that because Brendan was mentioning that.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else before Brian goes to town?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a minute, so everybody else get their shit out of the way.
What did Brendan and I forget? I know. And then according to the, show, the movie, he went back and basically threatened his mom's nurse. Like, I was here at this time and I left at this time, right? And she was like, know. So she told the police after the fact that like he was there, not there as long as he claimed to be.
All right.
All right. So
Get away, Brian.
yeah, I'll start with all the notes we've got for Brennan. So it doesn't look good that he lied to the cops, and you can't like look inside his head to see if he's telling the truth or not. But his excuse later was the cops were corrupt, so I didn't want to tell them, yeah, I had been here, because then they'd only focus on me and I didn't do it. I needed them to be looking for the real killer. It's like, well, like I've heard that the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division SLED has some sketchy people in it, so that explanation has a seed of truth in it, that yeah, I wouldn't tell them this if I thought I was.
Didn't our friend who lived there say
Yeah.
that? Ethan?
Yeah, well,
That they
because
are corrupt?
we had a friend that lives in South Carolina, and I talked to him about this case, and he was also only seeing the public side of it, not the trial. He's like, oh yeah, that family, they're guilty. I was like, okay, well, what about SLED? He's like, well, they're corrupt too. It's like, okay, well, then you have two bad people that can't be trusted. So how do you? So the main thing is, if everybody in that region knows his family and like has this presupposed like belief that they're like corrupt and all that, he can't get a fair trial there. The trial has to move somewhere else, because the jury's going to start out with, he's a criminal in their mind, whether it's financial or they think he murdered him, whatever. They're already biased. So you have to move the trial, and they didn't. They had it right there. If he changed clothes, where were those clothes? Because we have a tight window from when they were murdered to when he came back that night and the cops were there. So you have to find the clothes that he used, and I don't think they did. The one shirt that they had, which may have been the one he was wearing, I can't remember, but they presented all of this information to a grand jury first. Like before you take a trial to actual trial, you kind of get like a test mock trial first, where the state presents their evidence and says, this is what we have. Do you think we have enough to make a good trial here? And that happened. Obviously, the grand jury trial jury said yes. When they pulled the cop that presented to the grand jury as a witness in the real trial, and they said, hey, you presented this shirt as being spattered with the son's DNA. He said, yes. Was it blood? And he said, no, it was saliva. He's like, did you tell the grand jury it was saliva DNA, or did you lead them to believe it was blood? And he said, well, I said it was, the son's DNA. So you misled them by not making it clear that this wasn't a blood spattered shirt, because the son had been brutally murdered. You would be covered in blood if you blew his head off at short range with a shotgun, but this shirt wasn't covered in blood. Whether the son was crying on the shirt or, whatever, like it wasn't blood DNA on the shirt. So that like the cops, I think, excuse was, well, I'm, the kind of like standard cop answer is, I'm trained to employ trickery to help get, a suspect's confession or whatever. And it's like, well, but this isn't a suspect. You're lying to a jury about evidence. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm trained to, like, that's part of my job, is being allowed to do that. It's like, that doesn't like, so on that alone, I would argue mistrial. Like if you misled the grand jury, throw the whole case out. Like it's not a fair trial anymore. They didn't do that. They kept going, fine. Just, stack that pebble on the evidence pile of not guilty. So Brendan, you said like he would have known how to get rid of the weapons. Again, you have the family being murdered at time point X and him being, seen by the police at time point Y. It's something like a 3 or 4 hour window, or 5, or whatever it is. If you have his phone and you have his car and you know the path he took, where are those weapons? Did he give them to somebody else to hide? Who did he meet with? You have to show that, like, how did he hide these murder weapons that they weren't found between the murder and the trial? Like, it wasn't just that night they couldn't find him in that short window of time, or like the next couple. They had until the trial to keep looking, and they never found those weapons. So where are they? Like that's a big thing. Going back to guns, the problem with guns these days is they're so well made. Like, not to get into the whole history of guns and like teach a class on that now, but back when guns were first made, they were made by hand, right? Like we didn't have CNC machines and all this kind of fancy technology. It was, carving wood by hand, blacksmiths and all that kind of stuff. Each weapon may have looked similar, but they were handmade, so the tolerance was much different. So you could tell each gun almost had a fingerprint. When you fired a bullet, the marks were different because the barrel was different. These days, with the precision of machinery, when you've got a machine running off like thousands of guns a day on like mass produced things, they're so close that it's impossible to tell the difference. There's actually a report, I'll drop it in the chat, with a whole bunch of lawyers speak, basically saying these two guys say that tool mark evidence is now like a pseudoscience. Like the human eye can't look at two series of scratches on two nearly identical things and tell that they're the same or different. There's no technology to analyze that. So every court case going back to roughly the mid 90s, when like manufacturing technology got so much more precise, that evidence can't be used now. But the people whose job this is don't want to admit that their job is like not valid anymore, and it would throw out like all those cases that were convicted because of it. So there's this huge like institutional fear of admitting that it's pseudoscience now because of what it would do. So that came up during this trial, that you don't have the murder weapon, but this one was close. It's like, well, that's great. There were shell casings on the property. Great. They hunted hogs with these weapons. So they were shooting at wild animals all the time on their property. Shell casings everywhere doesn't really prove anything. There's also, so I'm familiar with the cartridge they used. It's similar to the normal AR projectile. It's a little bit bigger, so it's better against like thick-skinned game like hogs. So I think the father and sons each had their own variation of this, like similar guns, same caliber, but like the dads might have had this feature and the sons had this one. So each of these three guns were roughly the same. One of the sons lost his, or said he lost it. Maybe he gave it to a friend or left it at a friend's house or whatever. So they got a replacement. So now there's another missing gun being thrown around here. Was like, did the friend use that? Was that like a murder? So there's a gun just floating around somewhere that could have been this one. And let me go back to notes. So the other thing that's weird is you kind of have to reconcile who was Alex Murdaugh here. Did he like methodically plan everything? Because he managed to, have all these things in place. Like, I'm going to hide their murder weapons so well that they're not going to be able to find it. I'm going to do all of this and not get any blood splatter on. Like, all these things lead to he perfectly planned it, but then also he used two different guns, so he didn't bring like one gun that would work the best. That's weird. Like, was he sloppy or was this planned well? Because there's signs of both here. And that, I would say, reasonably leads to two different people doing things. When they looked at the trajectory of the rounds that shot the wife, the bullet went through her body at a certain angle. So you basically just extrapolate that back and see, like, you have to put the barrel of the gun on that line. And if you take into account Alex's height, he's basically like holding it under his arm. And that's not a way anyone who knows how to shoot shoots. You don't fire from the hip like Rambo. You don't point it sideways. Like, you bring the stock up to your shoulder and shoot here. So he wasn't kneeling, which would be a more stable position, because that would put the gun, him holding it above his head. So like, he would have to be in some kind of like weird half squat, or was he sitting on an ATV, but there were no tire marks? Like, you have to somehow put this weapon in his hand so that it makes sense the way he's holding it. And the way it like made sense was like a 5'2" person, so something like a foot shorter than him. So it's like that, again, not proof of anything, but stack another pebble on that. This doesn't line up perfectly to be him. So you've got this, the monetary pressure side, like he was being caught out for fraud. But it wasn't until, I want to say, like the week after they were killed, that he wasn't in the office because his family was murdered. He was doing other things, like, getting a lawyer or whatever. And he called the office and asked his secretary to like find a check. So she, found the check, but then she was looking through the office and found another copy. So he had written two checks for the same thing. And this is, evidence of fraud. But that means nobody was catching on to his fraud when he murdered the family. It wasn't until after the fact that all this started to come out. Also, he murdered his family to get sympathy, but his dad had just died. Did he need more sympathy than his dad dying? So why not see if that worked for whatever sympathy he was trying to garner? and then brutally murders, kind of like that just kind of seems a little weird. So again, just put that pebble on the pile of like, his dad just died. Well, I need more sympathy than that. So let's brutally murder my family with guns. Like that doesn't check out for me. The problems with his son, what was the son's name? Not Buster, Paul? Paul. So prior to this, I don't know if it was like 6 months or a month prior, but the son was kind of a troublemaker. He got drunk and was driving a boat around. The boat got into an accident, and one of his, friends or one of the girls on the boat was like thrown out of the boat, hit like a pier or something, and died. She was, I won't say murdered, but she died because of his negligence. That family was understandably upset that their daughter was killed because of this kid being drunk. Nothing, like the son wasn't arrested or charged, wasn't going to jail. Like there was no trial set for the son for this. That family might be upset and want to take revenge on this kid for murdering their child. So did the police look into that family where they were? Like, did they have any, like, were they investigated at all to clear them as potential suspects? Because that seems like they have a motive to harm the kid too. And as far as I know, they were never questioned or anything. So that to me is like one single piece that's enough reasonable doubt for me. Like that family had a motive to kill the kid. So that to me is enough. But even if it's not, let's keep going. So Brendan, you talked about this before, where previously he had gotten into some financial trouble. So what he did was he hired a family friend to kill himself so the family would get the life insurance. But now he's like, well, that's not working, so I'm so ashamed, murder my family. That's kind of a 180 swing from he kills himself to get financial security for his family to him murdering his family so they're not ashamed of him. Like those are two wildly different things. You could argue that, yep, sure, like this didn't work, so he changed it, but to me, that's reasonable doubt. Every witness that was questioned about how much he loved his family, from the state's witnesses, like the state trying to convict him, brought in witnesses like friends and family to ask them about his relationship. Every single one of them, he loved his family more than anything. Like if we were in a meeting at work and somebody like his son called or his wife called, he'd pick up the phone and walk out of the meeting. Like if we were doing anything, he'd leave work early to go to his son's like sports games or events. Like he put his family before work in every single instance they could remember. If it was ever a choice, he chose family. But now he brutally murders them with like blowing his son's head off with a shotgun. Like it's those don't line up. Those things don't work well. And you talked about like him threatening the maid, which I think it was the housekeeper at like his mom's house. And his mom was, elderly. His dad had just died. So I think it was at the mom's house where this happened. And I don't like, I would have asked the maid, like, well, was he threatening you? Like, was he asking, like, I was here, right? Like, are you going to tell people I was here? Is that him trying to intimidate her? Or is that him like trying to find another witness who will help with his side of the story that he wasn't at the house murdering the family, he was here, like he's panicked and trying to find an ally because everybody's against him, like, or whatever, like how that conversation was received versus his intent would be something I would want to make sure of, because they called the maid in or the housekeeper and were like, was this like, did he ask you these questions, and then framing it as he was intimidating her. It's like, well, that's I think that's open to interpretation. Again, I don't remember exactly the trial, but that seems to me like it could be a reasonable interpretation. It's like he was panicked, and his panic looked like intimidation, where it was like desperation and panicking. As far as like the cell phones and the car, I don't think the two phones moved together. I'm pretty sure that when they talked about the wife's phone moving, his car wasn't moving at the same time. So he had the wife's phone in a different car to move that, and then threw her phone out, and then went back, got his phone in his car, and drove differently. So the other thing they talked about a lot was like when the phone changes like orientation. So like the phone went from like vertical to landscape. And that's like when I think the defense tried to say, like, well, what if like, the killer, say it wasn't him, because they're trying to say it wasn't him, the defense. What if the killers that took the phone and drove away, they threw it out the window, and then it's by the side of the road and his car drives by. Now, when the phone screen, like, was thrown, it was this orientation. But when it landed, the phone didn't activate. But when he drove by and like the phone tried to connect to the car, that activated the phone screen. And that's when that's why those two things aligned for that brief moment. Is that possible? And I think the guy was like, I don't know, it doesn't track like what's so. The other thing was, well, he was, speeding to his mom's after he murdered them. When you look at like the speed data of the car, the prosecution was like, well, he was driving 70 miles an hour, which is a true statement. But when you say that, the person you're telling that to infers that he was driving 70 miles an hour the whole time. Like he left the house and just gunned it down this, back road. But when you look at the data, it was for like a 45-second window where he was going 70. The rest of the time, it was like 50, 55. And the defense was like, well, it's a brand new car. When you get a brand new car, don't you like gun it a bit? Like you have a heavy foot, you like find a straightaway and just gun it on these back roads. Like that's a thing that happens, which is more reasonable that he's speeding away from the murder scene or he's just gunning it in a nice new car. Also, when's another time you might speed up for a short period of time? If you're passing somebody going slow. So maybe he gunned it to go past somebody. Like that's a reasonable assumption as well, not just he's running away from a murder scene. So all of these things kind of like line up. Like, is there another explanation that also makes sense? Well, that's the definition of reasonable doubt, is something that makes sense that a normal person does. When he was in the cop car and they were asking him about like, were you here earlier today? And he said no. Well, earlier today is a pretty vague statement. Like, well, yeah, I was here this morning and I had breakfast, but I haven't been in the house since. Like, were you here a couple of hours ago? And when they say, like, when the son was filming earlier, like shortly before they were murdered, and he was on his phone, you hear Alex's voice, but that doesn't mean he was there. The wife could have been on speakerphone talking to Alex while the son, like, they never looked at those phone records, or I don't remember if they looked at, but like, there's other explanations for being able to hear his voice that doesn't mean he was there. Also, the kennels, these kennels that they had the dogs in weren't like little small like crates or cages. They were like 6x6, like chicken coop size things for each dog. And they, put the food for the dogs in there. There was a hose nearby. So like, if the dogs peed in there, or whatever, you could rinse it down with a hose. They called the groundskeeper as a witness. And they said, they asked him, when Mr. Murdaugh rinsed down the dog cages, did he ever leave the hose like on the ground, or did he like roll it back up on the hook? He always rolled it up. He always put it away. He was always like, careful with the equipment. He always took care of things. Well, when the cops were there for the murder scene, the hose was on the ground and the whole place had been sprayed down. So you either have to say like, well, he planned this to be really careful, to be a careful killer. He, cleaned the scene up, but then he forgot to do the thing that he always did, or he deliberately, like, again, I'm going back to like he perfectly planned this, or he was sloppy and panicked. And you get like pieces of both, which don't really make sense when the cops were talking to him after, and he had a friend in the car with him. And his friend was, I think, a lawyer with their company. When he was talking, again, this is his like explanation after the fact. So how much of it was like he had time to think of something that made sense, I don't know. But his explanation with his friend in the car was, my friend, I thought he was acting as my lawyer. Like I had him with me. I was thinking of him as in the lawyer capacity. So when the cops started asking me questions, I thought he would stop me when it's like, hey, like you shouldn't answer this question, or you shouldn't talk to them about this now. Like you're in an emotional state, don't say anything. But his friend said like, well, I was just there because my friend was in distress and I was just, there for emotional support. So that like him saying too many things that came up later, it's like, well, why did you say this? It's like, well, I was just, trying to be helpful, or I was trying to say that I didn't trust him, or whatever it was. Like there's a reason why you shouldn't give statements to the police when you're like emotionally affected like that. And I don't know if Josh can either back me up or disagree on this, but when police are involved in a shooting, or when a person is involved in a shooting, don't talk about like I fired 3 shots or I fired 5 shots. Like don't rely on your like memory after the fact on those specific details. So don't like give yourself time to get away from the emotions and recall the events. So when he's talking about like, oh yeah, like I wasn't here earlier, I was here earlier, they didn't ask specifically like when was the last time you were here, or like, when was the last time you saw them alive. So when they're asking all these questions, they're I don't know, they're using emotional responses. So thank you, Lindsay. The other thing about like all this financial stuff was he was like constantly like shuffling things around and trying to stay ahead of the game. So this trial should have only been about, did he like, is there evidence that he killed his family? And one of the witnesses, I forget, it was a prosecution or defense witness, but they asked him like, can you think of any reason he would have killed his family? And the witness said no. Well, then the state was like, oh, well, we'd like to introduce something that might be a motive. So that's when they brought in all of his financial crimes that had been discovered, that had been going on forever. And they said, here's a reason why. Well, that can bias the jury for character. It's like, well, he's a horrible person because he stole all this money. So that could bias the jury. And that, I won't say shouldn't have been allowed, but that's one of those things where it's like, well, just because he was stealing money from a bunch of people doesn't mean he would brutally murder his family. So that like kind of skews the jury. I think they're appealing now as well because of that. But all of this financial stuff is bad. Yeah. Just lawyer, and that's all you like speak and spell when they pull your string is lawyer. It also came out that like he had been, I think, using a lot of drugs, whether it was methamphetamines or whatever it was. He was on like, so during the trial, they said like, hey, when he's, he's in prison, incarcerated as, the sole suspect for this, he needs to go to rehab for withdrawal because you're obviously not gonna like give him narcotics. So that kind of again leads back to like, you could say he's back and forth, but like some things were executed perfectly and some things were sloppy. Well, yeah, drug use, you kind of have those periods, but that's another one of those like, well, just because you use drugs doesn't mean you murder your family. So like you have to separate these things when you're looking at him as the perpetrator. So like the fact that they never looked at anybody else when there were some people that I think they should have looked at, I think is reasonable doubt. Like all the, so let me look down some more here, make sure I don't have everything.
I remember you
I
mentioning
want to know if you have a thought about the whole boat thing.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure his property, because it's, South Carolina, the marshes and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of like water boats and airboats. So somebody could have come up by boat, murdered them, and left by boat. So even if neighbors didn't see a car driving by, there could have been somebody that came that method. Did the police ever search a water line for like recently trampled down weeds or anything like that? Like, did they ever look? And I don't think they did. It's like, well, so you didn't look for anything else. Like, you need to look to rule it out. You need to say we looked for this and it couldn't have been done, or like, yeah, it was, but like, the way plants grow, this is a week old, like it wasn't that night or whatever. Like, so they didn't look for those kinds of things. The
Okay, wrap it
Yeah,
up.
I would say I think that covers
Well-
everything. But yeah, it's there's no like one clear proof like, oh yeah, these are the people that did it, he's innocent. It's all like, this doesn't make sense. Okay, that's a different explanation, and that different explanation just has like so many explanations at every point where I'm like, I can't say definitively he did it. Do I think it's more than 50%? Maybe, but that's a civil trial. That's not a criminal trial. It's not more evidence than not. It's if there's any reasonable doubt, you can't send somebody to prison if there's reasonable doubt. And I think there's more than enough for his case. So, and again, I after the trial, I started watching one of the documentaries, and after having seen the trial, I was like, they're just talking to people that don't like him. Like, that's not a documentary, that's like a biased hit piece, and I stopped watching. So I didn't like the one, I think it was the HBO documentary, and I didn't watch any of the others. So I said, feel free to chime in and respond to any of those, and we'll see what we get.
Can I
That
share
was
one more thing that I
incredible.
found?
Yes.
So this is kind of like the area, like a sketch of like the murder scene. This being Maggie right here. This is the son, Paul. This is where those dog kennels were. And like Brian was saying, they're not regular kennels. They're like 10x5, like really long, deep kennels. They're really close within proximity to each other. So I'm assuming if a shotgun goes off too, like I don't know who died first, but one person would hear it easily. And I'm leaning more towards there's two people involved. That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yep. And
But
I think both sides agreed on the order of murder. I think they agreed that Paul was shot first with a shotgun at very close range, and they think he had his 300 blackout with him, which is the one that's missing. So again, you have to say, like, well, was the killer surprised that the wife was there and had to grab that other gun because they didn't bring any more ammo for the shotgun? Like, that's not a very well planned hit. So like that, if it was Alex, he would have known they would both be there. So he planned to kill the son with one and grab the wife, the 300 blackout to shoot the wife. So like he brought one gun knowing he'd have the other one, or that if you run and get the other one, like, or did he plan to kill the son and hope the wife didn't fight? Like there's so many questions about like, how did this happen? If it was Alex, where it just makes more sense if it was the other people, if it was two other people.
Brennan, what you think?
I got a couple questions. You make some good points. You make a good lawyer, no doubt. Couple things, like, so he was really tied in because of his dad. His dad was really tied in. Like, they had connections everywhere. Why would he have been afraid of Sled? Like, he's usually tied in with all of this and has everybody on the payroll. Like you said, there's not a lot of people that knew at that point a bunch of the fraud. So I don't know, like, I feel like he would have had everybody in his pocket, for one. The clothes, shoot, I forget what my rebuttal was on the clothes. But when you mentioned the family, like, I think it was more so that he had a breakdown. Like, he had all of this stuff going on, then he lost his dad, and it's almost like a breaking point. And I don't think that this whole thing was he loved his family. I think he expressed that. I think he said that all the time. But again, Maggie was leaving. Paul was a problem. He was trying to look out for Buster. I don't think he was looking out for his family with a life insurance policy. He was looking out for Buster. But you mentioned too his voice. He was like, he could have been on speaker or something like that. But that's the only true hole that I think I heard in your story, is they caught that as a lie. He said that was his voice because he was there. So it wouldn't have been speakerphone or anything. He would have been there. And that's the lie they caught him in. Because he said he wasn't at the kennels before that. After they caught that, he said, yeah, I lied. So
But does lying make me guilty of murder? Lying just makes me a liar.
Yes, but you're talking about being at the scene of a murder.
And I'm panicking because I know these fuckers have it out for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say whatever I need to say, especially in a heightened sense of emotion.
So
I'm just saying.
Why would Sled have had it out for him at that point then? If no financial crimes were out or anything at this point, why does he had that county, that state in his pocket, especially with his dad? Like, why are they out for him? So it's just a question. Like, I don't know why. But that's a big lie to be like at a murder scene or not.
But didn't they say, like, weren't you there earlier? They didn't say, like, were you there at this specific time? And so he was there earlier, but what's their definition of earlier versus like he's thinking, I don't know.
But he said no. He said no either way first.
Yeah, but if somebody asked me if I was there earlier and they're talking about the murders, I'm gonna say no. But if I were there earlier in the morning that's not what I'm thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Yeah,
say
like-
no, I wasn't there earlier, but of course I was there in the morning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
And
that's
the
all.
only other question, wasn't he starting early once they started asking him questions to just start throwing out like, yeah, I've got problems with this group. It might have been these people, and just kept started, saying that, offering that up before they even are questioning that. Like he's trying to plant that, which makes me think, okay, if he's buying into this story and trying to create a narrative, that's why I would shoot a gun different or do something differently. If
So it, if you so I'm a nerd. I look at like the Punnett squares, right? Where like if this is true or if it's not true, and if I say it's true and if I say it's not true. So you have to look at from he's either he did it or he didn't do it. If he did it, why he'd start throwing out other people is to throw them off his scent. But if he didn't do it, why he'd start throwing out other people is because he wants them found, he wants them caught, he has others. So like if the the family that had the daughter that his son killed, I would be like, what about them? Like they have a grudge against my family. Like, there's all these death threats on Facebook for my son from all these people. Did you question them about where they were? Like the family of that daughter. Like did you have like he's trying to figure out who did it. So that explanation of him throwing out all these other things makes sense both ways to me. So like if he did it, he'd try to throw them off by saying other people. If he didn't do it, he'd throw all these out because he wants to find out who did it. So like
yeah, I
Did you think of this? Are you looking into that?
I wholeheartedly agree with you that they should have looked at. I don't know if there was any marshes by his property or not, but they should have looked at those avenues of that family or, other potential suspects. Absolutely, they definitely. So they didn't do that at all.
Not as far as I'm aware. Like I don't know that they questioned anybody else because they didn't. Again, I'm remembering back to the trial. I didn't like rewatch the whole thing to catch up, but I don't think they called the family of like that daughter as witnesses at all. Like they didn't ask like where were you guys? They didn't question it. Like they didn't really look at anybody else, which kind of is like backwards support for Alex saying like they were out to get me. It's like, well, why? They never looked at anybody else. Like whether it was because they were lazy and they didn't want to do a real investigation. Like we just say it's him and then we just frame him. Like however you want to phrase that. But it's like they didn't really look for anybody else because they thought they had him, and that to me
I
makes
got
it
a little
hard.
hole. I got a little hole now. So I asked Uncle Chat. They did investigate from the boat crash theory. They said they investigated the people who sent threats, friends and relatives of the crash victim, anyone known angry at the family, and they checked alibis, phone locations. None of those people's phone locations were at that scene.
Okay, so they ruled out that family, but not like the
Yeah.
drug. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the vigilante or random attacker, no unknown DNA anywhere, no forced entry. It was family guns used.
I mean, it wasn't.
But you can't prove that is the whole point. Is like the family guns thing. It's like just because I own guns that happen to have the same
caliber.
Yeah. And so I really didn't even think about ballistics being questioned until Brian brought that, like when we were discussing the trial, like live as it was happening. And then it's so true. These guns are made in factories by machines now. They're not, forged by blacksmiths anymore. And so how can you actually say this was fired from the same weapon?
Yeah.
So
because they never do larger sample sizes. They're like, we've got this bullet that was recovered from the scene. We fired it through the gun that we think did it, and they match. Like, well, did you fire 10 other guns? Because you fight like if I've got a Glock, 21 or whatever, and the bullet was a 9mm and was fired through a Glock, the bullet we recovered matches mine. But if I fire it from 10 other Glocks of the same model, do all of those bullets look identical? Those are never done in trials. They just match 1-to-1 and call it good.
So here's essentially why he got it, because they searched the boat crash, mad family members, no one could have done it. They checked a vigilante or a random attacker, that one almost immediately out according to this, just a random happening. And then they checked the drug gang criminal retaliation theory. So they checked drug contacts, known associates, phone communications, those locations, and financial links. Couldn't find any. So that all of those other routes are completely dry, mixed with Alex, his original alibi being false, placing him at the kennel minutes before the murder. That's how they got there.
Yeah.
So those other routes they did look at, and they didn't find any connections.
Did they do a what am I,
So the
the
gunshot
hand
residue,
test?
they
Yes.
did, and they found a lot of gunshot residue, but it's like, well, yeah, but we're shooting guns all the time. There's always going to be gunshot residue everywhere. Like, unless he like showered and scrubbed down, it's not going to be all gone. So it's just evidence that he fired a gun recently. And who's to say they didn't just go shoot at some animals the day before? So it's like that.
So Brian, with residue, with changed clothes, with being there, your alibi lied, and knowing that they checked all these other routes and there's no link whatsoever, you couldn't
but
say, I think this
To what
dude's.
depth they've checked all the other routes though? Because it's like, it sounds like they looked into his ass a lot harder than anything else.
And the other thing is, like, if he changed clothes and showered, was that something he did every day? Like, was that a normal pattern for him, or was that out of the ordinary on this day? Like, all the, like, again, I'm not saying he didn't. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm saying there's enough questions that I'm like, somebody else could have. There's enough reason for somebody else could have. Also, if he was trying to, like, give everything to Buster or save Buster, whatever it is, based on my, limited knowledge, what they call our family annihilators. Oh, yeah, Nate, like, the whole trial, he sobbed anytime like they brought up his family. And again, that's when I was like, well, yeah, a psychopath could fake it, or the real guy would do that. Like, I don't know that means anything, because like yeah, like he broke down, like, just sitting on the table at the trial, like, not the witness stand, but like with his lawyers. He killed Paul and his wife. Why didn't he kill himself? Like, why would he have tried to cover it up and leave? Like, why? Because if you're trying to, do all of this, and he was like so distraught over the financial stuff, why not himself as well as these two people? Because what does that get him? Like, how does that give him? So again, like, call each one 1% and then stack it all up. So.
I would make a horrible juror, because now I totally think he's not guilty with a reasonable doubt. But I was thinking too, like, Brian said one thing that really stuck out to me, which was either he planned it and he did a bad job at it, or it was chaotic, like if he did do it, right? But like, which one was it? Because I feel like if he had planned it, he would have probably gotten away with it. Like, he would have had more of a plan. Like, none of his actions showed somebody that was planning it, but I believe that was part of their argument. So,
Well, and
yeah, they kept saying like, oh, it was all planned, but then, oh, this was terribly messy. Like,
yeah,
of course he did it,
yeah. And I think in the trial, the defense mentioned that as well. Like, you keep saying this was perfectly executed, and he's like, he premeditated the whole thing, but you caught him in 4 hours. So like, you can't say it was a great job planning it. Like, this whole, which one of it doesn't really make
Plus, if
sense.
he was scrambling to solidify an alibi afterward, like, to me, that's the messiest part of it, that shows that he couldn't have possibly planned it.
You'd have your alibi beforehand.
Yeah. So my take on it is not saying he didn't do it, just like Brian was saying, but I do feel like there's enough reasonable doubt, including the fact that they misled the grand jury at the very beginning, saying, oh, his son's DNA was found on his shirt, but not saying it wasn't blood.
Nate said, chat and Grok both think he's guilty, if that means anything.
I think his ass did it. I'm sticking to it.
Here's the thing, though. You can think he's guilty, but still think he should be acquitted because they did a terrible job at trial. And that's the interesting thing about the U.S. justice system.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at too. Like, I think he's guilty, but there isn't enough to convict him.
Yeah, like, and I won't say that I think anybody would do this, but imagine yourself in his case, and you're like, I didn't do it. And it's like, if they said, well, this is where he was, and it's like, if this was the evidence against you, would you go like, yeah, they got me? Or would you go like, wait, like all these little things, like that's not enough. So that's kind of how I looked at it.
And he was already, wasn't he already sentenced to 40 years for his his
Well,
financial crime? So why is he fighting so hard against this conviction,
Yeah.
knowing that he's going to die in prison anyway?
Yeah, the trial for the financial crimes was after, but it also was basically in this one as well, because they brought in like all the financial crimes here. And again, like his defense said, like, Your Honor, you can't bring this in because it's going to show like bad character, and that's going to bias the jury. And this, like kind of weak little loophole of like, well, you did ask if this witness could have come up with any reason, and the prosecution was like, well, that gives us the door to open to present this as a motive. So like, it's like, well, then if he's found guilty here, that makes it harder for him to get a fair trial on financial stuff, because just because you kill your family doesn't mean you stole money. Just because you stole money, that like he could be innocent on one, or not guilty, and guilty of the other in both cases. So like you can't bring this in because it'll bias that trial. So it's like, yeah, it was just a weird kind of situation to watch happen live. And again, the ballistics experts that they called in were kind of silly, because knowing an intermediate amount about guns as I do versus like experts, seeing these people called up as experts, I'm like, that's not true. That's not how it works. That's not. So like that was kind of interesting to see.
So, and I also, what I would love is for Brian to do a training at some point that's like, how we're always like, as agents, like, well, that's why I carry on me, is because like, if somebody tries to attack me during a showing, I would love Brian to teach a class that's like, what happens if you actually shoot somebody? What are the like protocols that you should go through to keep your ass like as reasonably out of jail as possible? So I would love for him to do some sort of an agent safety training on that, because not like carrying a gun isn't just the answer. Like you have to be smart about it. So I think that that'd be really cool. So anyway, like, thank you so much I just thought it was a really fun subject to be, talked about, especially because I was one of those like hardcore, he's definitely did it, after reading or watching the documentary and everything. And then having a couple of discussions with Brian, I was like, holy shit. Just all these things I never would have like considered. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for participating in this. This was really fun. I didn't answer that question, but I would have voted not guilty. That was really cool to see the poll on it. So at the very beginning, I felt guilty, but like, how do you guys feel now after that whole discussion? Guilty, same, not guilty, same as when we started. And, beyond that, like, was your mind changed or not? So, I have to also say, one thing I truly appreciate about this company is how diverse all of our skill sets and background is. Like, we have 2 people here with law enforcement backgrounds. We've got veterans. We've got country bumpkins. We've got Brian, who's in a whole fucking category of his own. And we've got your redhead crazy ass right here. So, very diverse skill set. Tomorrow I am going to be doing a training on Popple. So we offer Popple to our agents as a digital business card. We also have an email signature, everything else. I've messed around. I've fucked with a few digital business cards, and none of them have been as comprehensive as Popple. So we give our agents a Popple Pro account. Brian sets those up for our agents, anybody that wants to partake, but it's not what you have, it's how you use it. So I really want to do a deep dive on the training, how I've used digital business cards to follow up with my leads, to like be successful in networking and everything, and how I position my own personal digital business card to where maybe even can give you guys some ideas on the links within it. So, all right, Holly, close us out.
All right. When in doubt, reach out, message us if you need us. We are here for you. We all started this morning with a blank slate at 0. So go out and talk to a buyer, a seller, or an agent today. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.